Thank you, Ms. Conaway. Thank you for all your help. Good evening, everyone, and apologies for our delay. I will just jump right into the meeting and ask Dr. Stefankiewicz to begin with the superintendent's report, please.
Okay, great. So hope everyone had a great spring break, restful and safe. We are back. We anticipate all our schools will be in person on Thursday. I think we're heading into a very critical time. I think we're heading there. I think April is going to be, you look at just what's going on around the state, you listen to the governor, look at what's happening. I think April is going to be April's going to be busy. But I think that we're heading around the corner after that. Light is at the end of the tunnel, but we are not there yet. And that is something that we have to always remember. We have, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a lot of people fully vaccinated. I think we're going to start to see some real movement as we head toward the last couple months of the school year. But for right now, I think we all have to be unbelievably mindful and careful about the things that we do as individuals. I'm talking about parents, I'm talking about kids, I'm talking about everyone that have to, just do what they need to do. And I send my letters out every single solitary day and talk about the things we need to do. Keep your kids home if they're not feeling well. If someone in your household is getting ready to test, is testing or not feeling well, stay home. These are all things that are critical to keep our kids in school, because that's what our goal has always been. And we have been, since January, we've been very successful at keeping our kids in school, and we want that to continue. And so, I think we got to be real careful over this next month. Always got to be careful beyond this month, but I think this next month is going to be critical. And then hopefully we'll start to see some movement in more positive directions. If you look at the models, and if you look at hopefully the way that the trends will go. That leads me to a conversation that I wanted to have tonight about some of the activities that are coming up as we approach the end of the school year. We have proms, we have graduations, we have fourth grade celebrations, we have eighth grade celebrations, we have a lot of different things that tend to come starting in mid-May and go through that last part of June. And we, right now, and even though the outside gathering limit just was in, and this is another part of the problem, is at the state level, the government is releasing or softening restrictions in terms of upping outdoor gathering limits to 200 and all these things. And it's really kind of contrary to what we're seeing in the actual, boots on the ground kind of stuff as we see cases, kind of go up here. So it's somewhat contradictory, obviously, but, we have situations where a lot of our sports teams, want to have banquets, which we understand. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit and say that, right now, the outdoor limits, people have to understand, would not allow us to have a prom right now. It's 200 people outdoors. It's still 25 indoors. So we're hopeful that we're going to have a junior prom and a senior prom, but we can't promise that at this point, because 200 people, we're not going to do that with 200 people. It's not going to happen. Graduation, same thing. We can't have a graduation of everybody together. Right now, we're hopeful that these limits are going to go up like they did last year. But remember, last year we had to have 2 graduation ceremonies for both the middle school and the high school. We're going to do a graduation, obviously. We're going to get it done. We're going to figure it out. But I just want to urge people to be mindful and be cautious. Like, I'm getting emails from people saying, I can't believe that, you're not going to let, kids bring outside kids to a prom. And my response is, I don't know that we're having a prom. So I just want to make sure everybody understands right now that we don't know what's going to happen. Do we want to have fourth grade celebrations, eighth grade celebrations, proms, graduations? Absolutely. No one is saying you can't. But, well, actually, that's not true. Some people are saying you can't, because if it's going to go over 200 outside, you can't, right? But we want to be able to do this, and we're hopeful that some of those things are going to be loosened as we get further into May and June. But everybody just has to be patient and realize that we're up against it a little bit. And that leads me to my conversation about the sports banquets. I know that we have some teams that really want to celebrate their seasons, and we appreciate that. But what I'm most concerned about right now is that our kids stay in school, that our spring season can actually happen, unlike last year's spring season. Before we celebrate winter and fall, I want to make sure we actually have a spring season. Those kids deserve it. And, you know, that our artists can perform. I was talking with Mr. Todd today. The band at the high school wants to have a performance to show off everything that they've been doing for the last year. And we talked about doing something on the football field and having parents come. I mean, these are all things that we want to do. And so, you know, if there's a thought out there that, you know, we're stopping these things. No, we don't want to stop these things. We want to move forward. But I think as it relates to some of the sports banquets, I think what we really need to do, and what I'm going to suggest that we do, is that we hold off. You know, we're not saying no. I just think right now, even though it is allowable to do something 200 people, I think having an outdoor event with 200 people right now, and then having people come back into the school, is not a good idea in any way. So I'm going to ask our sports teams and our parent groups, who do a great job of you know, supporting our athletic program, to just be a little more patient. Just be a little more patient, and maybe as we get into May and June, that we can do that. So I wouldn't mind getting some board thoughts on that as we move forward here. I'll go over a couple other items. But I just think right now, certainly in April and into early May, we got to really be very mindful and careful about that. I wanted to mention, there's been a lot of discussion over the last couple of weeks, months, about the learning loss grant that we applied for. We found out right before we left for a break that unfortunately we were not awarded that grant. We knew it was going to be a little bit of a tall order, 16 awards for the entire state. But that's certainly, the fact that we didn't get it certainly is not in any way an indictment of the effort and the application itself, which, you know, Ms. Weldon took the lead on that, and you know, she did a great job. And it certainly wasn't for lack of effort and lack of substance that we did not get the grant. I mean, obviously there's a need base here, and you know, there's you know, just more needy districts within the state. But we feel very comfortable as we go through the budget process, that we're going to be able to use some of the monies that we received through the recovery, the federal recovery bill that was passed back in December. And now it looks like, you know, we haven't gotten any information on it yet, but the new law that was just passed back in early March or end of February looks like we're going to do pretty well, maybe upwards of around $4 million from the federal government on top of the 1.6 million that we're getting from the previous one. So we're going to be able to do a lot of the things from that learning loss grant that you know, we wanted to do. So it's disappointing, obviously, not to get the grant, but at the same time, we're not giving up on what was in there, and we're going to, I think, you know, we believe we're going to be able to fund that.
Have they announced the districts who have gotten it?
I haven't seen a formal announcement. Yeah. I've checked. I haven't seen a formal announcement. Yeah, they just let individual districts know in the state system whether you were awarded or not, but I haven't seen that press release yet. Another thing I just wanted to mention very quickly, this week, for all of you who didn't know, it is Assistant Principal Week in the nation, I guess. And I just want to take a minute to thank our assistant principals. First off, welcome Mr. Lambusta back to the intermediate school. Welcome Mr. Lambusta back in your absence. And I also want to thank Mr. O'Neill, who filled in that interim role and just did an awesome job on top of his other supervisory role, which, by the way, we didn't take those responsibilities away from him. And he did that job plus the new job, and he really deserves a lot of accolade, and we appreciate that. And we just have a terrific group of assistant principals, you know, Gina Hagerman, John Bosmans, Valerie Source, Mr. Lambusta, Mr. O'Neill. It is a very difficult job. I don't think anybody really knows how difficult it is unless you've sat in the chair. There's a reason that is one of the only administrative positions I've purposely not held, because I know how unbelievably difficult that job is. So I want to just congratulate all of those folks for a job well done, and we appreciate everything you do every day. And then lastly, before if the board has any questions, and I'm not sure if they're on because I can't see everyone, but our folks from our CPAG group, we had a group of individuals who wanted to, I think Ms. House and one other individual wanted to introduce themselves as the leadership for CPAG. So I apologize. I'm not sure. Like I said, I can't see everyone, so I'm not sure if they're on. But if they are, if they wanted to take a moment to say hello, and if for some reason they're not here, we will get them on at the next meeting.
Liz House.
Yes.
Please go ahead, Liz House.
Hi, Dr. Stefangwood. Thank you so much for that introduction. Kim and I weren't sure if we were going to be able to say hi and introduce ourselves tonight. So I don't believe she is on.
Okay.
But
We can have her on
just-
next time.
Yeah, yes. But just so everybody knows, so Kim Strunig and myself, Liz House, we are the leaders of the new CPAG. We have a Facebook page. We also have a new email address, which is on the Facebook page and the Facebook group. If anybody wants to reach out to us, they can just send us an email. If they need any support or anything, we're here for them.
And Liz, if you don't mind, just if you could just restate what CPAG stands for, just so
Yes.
everybody knows.
Special Education Advisory, Parent Advisory Group.
Excellent.
So, yes.
Very
yeah.
good. Thank you. Appreciate you being here, and we appreciate
There's no-
appreciate you
Oh, yeah.
leading the effort. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, so that's what we have this evening. So any questions on anything from the board?
Well, yeah, a couple things. If we can back up, maybe if you can give an update as to where we stand with vaccinations within the
Sure.
district for those who were interested. There have been some revisions to the state's guidance on quarantine for individuals, specifically for individuals who have been fully vaccinated, and so how that might impact,
Things moving forward.
moving
Yeah.
forward.
September, the
And-
beginning of September. Yeah, so where we are with vaccinations, we're in pretty good place, and we've had, once again, the VNA has done an amazing job for us, and so we've had a few hundred members, probably about 225, 250 of our staff members sign up to be vaccinated through the VNA. Of course, others, we have about 700 staff members total. That's everyone in the district, and many others have followed other avenues to get their shots. Obviously those folks, we don't know who those folks are. We haven't mandated that people tell us, but obviously some people have offered that up to us. And the one thing is, I think the VNA has kind of gotten a little overwhelmed. We have about 20 people right now who are still waiting. They've been waiting for a couple weeks. I think there's a lot of second shots happening now for people, and I think it has slowed the process a little bit. I have reached out to Christopher Wynn, who oversees the VNA, and have asked him to try to help us out to get those last group of people, at least who signed up for the VNA, to get vaccinated. But we believe by May 1st, a pretty large percentage of our staff is going to be fully vaccinated, which is great. So, and how that helps us, it helps us in a bunch of ways. One, people who are fully vaccinated, if they are a close contact to an infected person, do not have to quarantine. Only if they were to get symptoms would they then have to quarantine. So that is a great help in terms if there's any, I think I would hope that would be, first off, I think the biggest thing is I think it becomes a significant load off the minds of a lot of people, in the classroom, that they are protected in as best way they possibly can be protected. That's first and foremost, number one, their own sense of security, which is number one, and for their health. But also too, if we have a situation where fewer teachers have to quarantine or something like that, that helps keep things running, keeps operations going, which is great. Even if kids, because kids haven't, we just opened it up, I think, to 16 and over, effective the 19th or 26th. But it's good. That's going to take some time, and honestly, I don't know how much apprehension there will be in terms of vaccinating young the children, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. So we'll have to see how that goes. we're very excited about that. In terms of travel, hot off the presses, which really did help us a little bit for this week, is that the CDC announced on Friday, the governor announced late in the day yesterday that fully vaccinated people now do not have to quarantine after domestic travel. So if you've traveled beyond the country, then that could be an issue. If you go to the Bahamas, it's a problem. If you go to Alaska, you're good. Some of these, I have to say, some of these rules are a little frustrating. They're a little contradictory. They don't get these things out sometimes in a timely manner. It's hard for us. But we were very glad to be able to get that word out late in the day, because we did have a number of people who are fully vaccinated who did travel, and rightfully so, seeing people they haven't seen in a long time, and they were very happy to be able to come to work. They wanted to come to work, so it was a good thing that they were able to do that. And there also, was some word out there that now even partially vaccinated people, the duration of their quarantine can be shortened even if people are partially vaccinated. So that's also, a very positive thing. I think that we've seen, recently where that has really helped us. And so all these things, that's what I mean. I think as these things kick in over the next so many weeks, these things are really going to help with district operations. But we're going to have to get through we talk about that third wave coming. We're going to have to kind of really hunker down right now and get through that to just make sure that we, can get to that place where we start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So.
And so one last thing that I would like to ask for you to address before we go to other members of the board, obviously, the district and the administration and the teachers and the staff work very hard to be able to return to school this week, to make sure that as many students as possible are getting, in-person instruction. And obviously best laid plans don't always come to bear when there are situations outside of the control of the district. Right. And so obviously there were, decisions that had to be made regarding, two of the schools. So if you wanted to speak about those, kind of put the information out there that you can share in terms of both of those situations and where we stand.
So why don't we talk about OTES first, as that was the issue that arose first. Obviously, look, I mean, we are living in a crazy world, right? And right now, there are just unfortunate situations that arise that lead to things that potentially have to shut down. I know that there was some negativity that was put out there over the weekend, which in my mind was completely uncalled for, regarding the situation at Dow Avenue. Nobody did anything that was against social gathering guidelines. There's not one group of people who wants to, who doesn't want to be in school, and nobody wants to see a school close. So, a lot of that negativity was extremely unfortunate. And I think, people have to just realize that, things are unfortunately going to happen, and they've been happening all year. At this point, that's what I'm saying. We all, every single solitary member of the school community needs to take responsibility for realizing that what we do in and out of school, as harmless as it may seem, can potentially have a negative impact on school right now. And I say that to the parents, I say that to the kids, I say that to our staff, I say that to myself, I say that to the Board of Education. We all need to really hunker down right now and try to do the best we can. And despite our best efforts, things are going to happen. Things are going to happen. People are going to get COVID. People are going to have to quarantine. And we've had to close schools throughout the course of the year because of a variety of factors. And it's really unfortunate that it becomes a blame game, because that's not what it's about. So I think we just need to continue to support one another. I think we need to continue to just always be mindful and vigilant. I say it in just about every letter I put out, which is we need to all work together to do the things we need to do to make sure that we stay that we stay in school. And sometimes, despite our best efforts, things are going to happen that will impact that. So, I'm really thrilled that Ms. Lepoznik and the staff over at OTES did an amazing job in the last couple of days, and we got some good word from the Monmouth County Regional Health Commission in terms of quarantines and things. So we're thrilled that that the duration that we thought we were going to have to be out is far shorter than we anticipated. And we're very hopeful, and when I say hopeful, because I've been saying now for 2 weeks that this week is just a tough week in terms of second vaccinations and just a lot of things in general. So every day is a day that we have to just be aware of what's going on.
But the expectation is that
Yeah.
that OTS will be back on Thursday.
Yep, and the high
Thursday
school
night.
as well, and we're starting athletics back up tomorrow. The high school, I think what we saw at the high school was just, we didn't get a lot of notification over the break in terms of cases. And so when our nursing staff, who once again, I can't say enough about our nurses, have done an amazing job, but when they got back, really, they got back Monday. They were not off Monday. I don't know that they took a day off all break, but our high school got a lot of notifications on Monday that continued into today, and they just didn't feel confident that they could do all the contact tracing that they needed to do to be certain that any child who might be a close contact wasn't going to be in school, which is obviously the biggest issue we have. So they felt that they needed to contact trace. And they feel that they've got a handle on that now, and we'll be able to be back on
All right,
Thursday.
thank you. Ms. Hayes has had her hands up,
Yep.
and then we'll go to Ms. Gilman after. Ms. Hayes?
In your letter, you talked about the high school, and you just mentioned, we're still waiting. And I see that the dashboard was updated today, but there's been no email about cases. So,
Yeah.
In the last 36 hours, do we have new cases to report?
Yeah, well, I'll probably send a letter out tomorrow. And that actually leads me to another thing that I was going to discuss with the board. But yeah, we had, and this is over the course of the entire break. So I think we upped the dashboard at the high school by 15 today, and the other schools were
15 positives.
15 positives over the course of from the 27th through to yesterday. And then each school, I think the only school we didn't add at least one to was Wanamassa, but everybody else added one or two or three, something like that.
And so how is that not closing the high school?
Most of those students were not in school. They came up last week as positive. They were not in school. There were one or two that I think they were in school on that last day, the 26th. Typically when something like that happens, being that we're on day 11 at this point, often the commission at that point doesn't require anyone to quarantine. They basically will say, let these people know, tell them the symptom watch. We're on the back end of the quarantine. The likelihood that someone is going to be symptomatic or be able to, if they were positive or something like that, to be able to spread virus after day 10 is dramatically lower compared to, say, days 4, 5, 6, 7. So in that instance, those are really considered not to be, transmission, in-school transmission issues.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I'm saying we got to be really careful coming out here and over the next couple of weeks, because we got to see how things play. And as I've talked about in our task force meetings, it's not always about the number of cases. It's a combination of number and/or scope of cases. You could have one case that could quarantine 400 people, and that could cause you to shut down, or you could have 20 cases that that no one was impacted, and so you go from there. So there's no doubt that we've seen, and we really started seeing this in March. I don't think this is new. Toward the beginning of March, we started to see, and we've been saying it all along. There's been an uptick in cases. There's definitely been an uptick in cases, So we got to just be very careful and very mindful and watch it very, very closely. But we're going to do all we can to keep our kids in school. I mean, we talk with the commission every day. We know that in-school transmission continues to be low. We know that. It's not perfect, but we know it's low. So, it's in school where they follow the protocols. It's the outside stuff that gets them in trouble and gets us in trouble sometimes. But schools overall statewide are safe places. I think there's been 1,000 in-school transmissions as per the COVID dashboard for the state right now for the entire state since September. And that's out of 1.4 million, people, students and staff. So, the likelihood of an in-school transmission is low. It's not impossible. We've certainly had ones that we know or suspect could have happened. But overall, it's a very, schools are safe places. So, that's where we are.
You just mentioned we talk to the health department every day, and as I've mentioned to you in the past, it's not our fault, and I don't think we're at fault on this, that we can't get a hold of them, but we really don't talk to them every day. And I think as a board, we need to impress upon them, maybe meet with them or something, because it kind of threw at least Dow parents up a roller coaster. You're not in, now you're in, now you're half day, like now you're back in school. And I'm not so certain that if had we spoken to the health department, had they given us access, a direct line of communication on a weekend, on a holiday, because you've even had this in letters before. You're like, I'm waiting to hear from the health department because you're tied, your hands are tied. So, I mean, unfortunately, that stinks.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, I will tell you, they've really been unbelievable. I mean, they've been with us in the evenings. They have answered the phone on the weekends. They've given us their private cell phone numbers. I mean, this was unfortunately a holiday weekend that it's hard, these folks probably work 80 hours a week. It's hard for me to tell them, why didn't you answer your phone on a Saturday or Friday? So it's tough, I know. And they are closed on Friday. They are closed on Good Friday. It's a state holiday. So a couple things kind of played out this weekend that made it a little more difficult. But, it's hard, right? I mean, I've spoken with Dave Henry about it, and he says, I mean, it's a fine line. These people have lives, they have families, they have, they do what they do. So it's not, but at this point I mean, to your point, Alex, in the middle of a pandemic, is it realistic for them to have someone on call over a weekend to for these? And remember, we're not the only school district they're working with. I mean, they're working with
like 17,
dozens, right?
Also,
A couple,
they don't just work with school districts.
right? They
Yeah,
work with all the municipalities, with private citizens, right? Exactly.
So we don't know that they weren't working.
Correct.
We just don't know if they weren't working.
I hope-
on things that
I
were
mean-
much more pressing in terms of
Yeah.
the general pandemic
Yeah.
public
Yeah.
health crisis.
I hope they were working.
And I would
honestly,
say,
but yeah.
In terms of meeting with them, I think the district has built an incredibly good rapport with them and built a very good relationship with them and given the district a lot of access to the commission. And I think we need to be respectful of that and understand how much we can push on that and how much we already probably get a pretty decently disproportionate level of
Right.
access to the staff there.
No,
They've come
and
to
Dave,
board meetings, they've
Dave's
come
come
to
to right,
reopening
and
meetings.
and he's
came
met
to-
with us, and they've done an amazing. I mean, just to give you an example, a side story. Yesterday morning, I called them because I was curious about the vaccinated travel guidelines, and I spoke to. I'll give him a shout out. I spoke to Justin over there, and Justin told me no, because that was, that the Department of Health had not caught up with the CDC, which is not atypical. Sometimes there's a lag between what the CDC says and New Jersey sometimes just decides we're not going to adopt that because, cases are high or whatever it is. And then when the governor announced what he announced, saying it yesterday afternoon, obviously I changed it. Well, today I get back to my office in the afternoon and I got a call from Justin at the Monmouth County Regional Health Commission, which of course, all the blood drains from my face when I get a call from the Health Commission. But it's just Justin saying, I'm following up on our conversation yesterday about the fact that, you don't have to quarantine now which, I mean, these people are unbelievably busy and he took the time to do that, which is just, which is amazing. And we already knew that information and our people were already back in school, but, I think that speaks to their commitment. They've been great, but it is sometimes if things do occur on the weekend, it can be frustrating that we can't get an answer. And sometimes, we do have to, because we had a situation at Wayside few months ago where we had to, close down a couple of grade levels for a day just till we could contact trace and get with the commission. So it does happen from time to time, but more often than not, they're very attentive to our needs.
Ms. Gilman, I know you had your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Stefanowicz, for clarifying the Dow Avenue and the high school remote closing situations. My first question is, can you clarify or review the protocol for when administration does make the decision to go to remote? Who do you meet with, and does the board play any role in that decision making, or is that purely an administrative call?
Well, it's typically an administrative function. Once we make a decision, I would typically, contact the board president, let the board president know, and then of course I email the board, usually right after that, to let them know. Same thing with like snow day situations. Like I've said many times, if the board would like to take over that role, we can have that conversation. Be a negotiation I wouldn't mind having. It's the administrative team. It's myself. It's Ms. Weldon, Mr. Janarone, Ms. Zona, with the principals involved and the nurses. We have those conversations. Like I said, with the high school, it was our nurse yesterday who spoke to Mrs. Kasuba, who then, talked to me, and we felt that it was something that, the last resort is to close a building. That is, we do everything we can to not to do that. And I think we've proven that, over the last three plus months, we've had very little school closure, which is great. But when we see some things that we feel, sometimes to shut down a day to save the next 5 or 10 or 20 is something that you have to try to do. And we know it creates inconvenience, and we know it's not easy, and we know it's difficult. One thing we've heard over and over and over again is how difficult it is for kids when they're home, and we understand that. Got some, and it's hard, especially for the youngest of kids. I mean, maybe for some high school kids, it's a little easier of a transition, but not all. We have a lot of students who really struggle at home on remote, so it is always the last resort. And with the Dow Avenue situation, Mr. Pozniak contacted me. We spoke as an administrative team, and the first question really was: do we have the staff? Do we have the staff to open the building, and be able to operate safely with a full load of kids there? And the feeling was, unfortunately, that we couldn't, based on the numbers that we were talking about. But and I had alluded to this, that we have some individuals who were partially vaccinated, were able to not have to sustain such a long quarantine, and that was the main reason why we were able to get the school back open. And let me say, though, I mean, Thursday and Friday is going to be a little bit of Band-Aids and string and tape over there, but we felt that it's more important to get our kids back in school than, and it's going to not be a perfect situation, but it's not going to be an unsafe situation. It's not going to be one that from a management standpoint couldn't be done. And once again, I want to recognize Mr. Pozniak and also the staff over there. They worked together to make sure they were going to have things covered. And I, they did a great job. And I'm very happy that, as I sit here right now, that, we expect to have them all in on Thursday.
And my other question was, can we go back and clarify about proms?
Mhm.
After being an advisor for 24 years, this is March, this is April,
Yeah.
and we would be in full swing. So
Yep.
there is no plan for a junior or senior?
No, there
prom?
is. The advisors have worked, and they, typically the junior prom is at the intermediate school.
Okay.
I think there's a thought that we might do something on the campus outside. That's the thought. Perhaps the high school campus, maybe the football field or something like that. I think they might want to order a big tent, Ken. So
We have tents.
have tents. And then the high school prom, they've secured places. They have penciled in, they're not going to lose down payments. I mean, I think, well, I want to say Jumping Brook maybe outside, but on the date that we would normally have it, early June. But Mrs. Kasuba and I have talked that we really want what's fair, because there's a lot of preparation, as you know. not just from the school's perspective, but also from the people attending, getting a dress, getting hair done, I can basically tell you, this is what I look like on my prom. But, for some people, there's a lot to do pre-prom, right? So, we want to make sure that the kids have enough time. And so, we're kind of looking at, the junior prom is supposed to be May 15th. We're kind of setting like maybe a May 1st kind of deadline to say like, okay, by May 1st, we either know we're going to have it or we're not.
Okay.
And probably, sometime around May 15th, we're shortly thereafter for the senior prom.
But both will probably be at an outside venue.
They would have to be.
Have to be.
Because right now, the guidelines are 25 inside. A prom does not, none of these events, qualify under what, they're not weddings, they're not religious. If they get creative, maybe they can turn it into a religious service. I don't know, but I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? Like there's higher limits for some of those things. So we don't want to, right, exactly right. So we have to fall within the guidelines. I think, obviously we as a school district can't, as much as we want these things to happen for the kids, we can't, knowingly violate, the guidelines. So I think that we just have to, I think we're all very hopeful. Hopeful. And that's why I'm saying, that's why I'm going to ask our teams if it's okay with the board to just be patient in terms of their banquets. And, because some of these things are, once in a lifetime kind of things, like a prom, like a graduation, that's the priority. Just having school in general and having the kids in school is a priority. Having the kids actually play their spring season is a priority. And hopefully as we get to the latter part of the year, we can, the kids can have their banquets and they can, they can do what they need to do. Yeah, that's the goal.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other members of the board with any questions for Dr. Stefankiewicz?
I just have a quick question. Can you clarify that, so the teachers that are teaching from home this week, because we had to put the two schools on remote, they are getting paid full, right? They didn't have to activate the half pay or whatever it was that we voted on 2 weeks ago. I just wanted to make sure that they weren't using up their sick time or their
Well, first of all, with the two schools that were remote, the teachers were in. Those teachers did report to both of those buildings. Those who could reported, and the high school and Dell Avenue reported to their buildings. But anybody who was also under the criteria that the board set could work from home and be charged the half day. As we voted on.
Those who were
the last meeting.
quarantined, you mean?
Those who were under quarantine for.
yesterday was a remote, so yesterday nobody got charged a half day for yesterday though, right?
Staff was required to report to the buildings. So if someone was home because they traveled or someone was home because of a quarantine, if they were home for quarantine because of a close contact or something like that, or for childcare purposes due to COVID, whatever, the full criteria that we set forth, they could have worked from home, with the half day.
I forgot they went to the buildings to teach. I forgot.
Yeah. So they
I didn't want them to get shortchanged, in my opinion.
No one, to my knowledge, no one is getting docked pay for anything.
All right, anything
Okay.
else? Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Stefankiewicz. Moving on to Mr. John Roan for the school business administrator's report.
I actually do not have a report. I'll be speaking about a few things in their finance, but no official report right now.
All right. Thank you, then. Thanks,
No
Mr. John
problem.
Roan. Look at that. All right, at this time, we'll be moving on to our first public comment session. All motions are posted on the bulletin board, the district website. At this point in the meeting, we will now conduct the first of two public comment sessions. The first session will be open for public comment on agenda items only. The second session will be at the end of the meeting and can be on any topic. Would any member of the public like to comment on any agenda item at this time? And I'll just take a moment while Ms. Conway takes a look at the queue as people, you can message help desk and let Ms. Conway know if you want to make a comment or ask a question. Just to remind everyone from the public who's here tonight to be respectful of the opportunity to make public comment tonight. We do have a policy for our board that we can share with everyone, that it can be found on our website, that we hope that everyone maintains a level of decorum and respect for their fellow members of the public and the board when they make their comment or ask their question this evening. Ms. Conway, is there anyone in the queue?
Yes, there are 2 people in the queue right now. The first is Mike Riley, and he has a comment about the superintendent's reports, the letter.
All right, thank you. Mr. Riley?
Hi, everybody. Mike Riley, Oakhurst. I just want to make a comment about the letter specifically dealing with the elementary school and just read a basic statement. As president of the Township of Ocean Education Association, I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the staff members at the Township of Ocean Elementary School and the many district staff members who support them. On April 3rd, a letter was sent out by Dr. Stefankowitz to the OTES parents and guardians declaring that the school would be closed due to an event that took place outside of school earlier in the week. It continued by stating that the lack of enough staff in the building would not allow us to adequately provide appropriate supervision to our students, and then continued by suggesting that the closure may extend through April 14th. When I read the letter, I knew immediately what would happen. Social media would explode and there would be an immediate backlash on the staff at OTES, which is exactly what happened. Numerous angry posts were made demanding to know every detail of the situation while chastising the staff over and over again. However, as the posts continued, many parents stepped up in defense of the staff, and to them, I would like to express my thanks. The issue that we have with this letter are numerous, and I feel the need to express the highlights here. First, the wording of the letter is unlike the wording of any letter previously sent out by Dr. Stefankowitz. In no other letter was blame made in such a way as this. Previously, phrases such as a result of out-of-district transmission, or one positive case with additional positive exposures possible were used. One has to wonder why, in this case, different language was used. Was this to create division between the staff and parents, as at least one parent posted and suggested, particularly as stated by a parent as well during a negotiation year? Very possibly, but hopefully not. The staff has shown repeatedly that we serve both our students and their parents professionally, and with the understanding that education is our mutual goal at all times. Second, I expressed my issue with the letter to Dr. Stefankowitz, who stated that the letter was written with as little detail as possible. He continued by saying that some wanted names listed and the event to be detailed as well. I understood that there were some parents requesting this information, but in various conversations I've had since the letter was sent, there are those who firmly believe that there are some above the just a district parent level who would have liked to see the staff shamed and publicly reprimanded. I'm thankful that this did not occur, because this would have crossed moral and ethical levels, which would have demanded an immediate and clear response by the Township of Ocean Education Association and its supporters. Finally, the Monmouth County Regional Health Commission was closed until Monday. That is true. But did the district need to throw the staff, students, and parents into a panic before consulting them? The letter itself was sent out before much contact tracing even occurred. The building was closed prematurely and the dates were listed publicly before anyone truly knew the extent of possible transmission among the staff. This would never have been handled similarly for an in-school transmission, and it could have been handled much better in this case as well. Had this been handled differently, the social media blitz, the tempers flaring, the accusations made, and the vilifying of staff publicly and privately never would have happened. This is shown by the most recent letter sent April 5th, which states, after consultation with the MCRHC and work done by the OTES staff, OTES will be able to reopen for in-person instruction on Thursday, April 8th. This school year has been beyond difficult for everyone involved, and that is a fact. However, after this most recent event, the staff of the Township of Ocean, particularly those at the elementary school, can add degrading, insulting, and demoralizing to the list as well. Those who believe for some reason that the staff has had it easy this year clearly know little about what we go through from the early morning to late at night to prepare our students as best we can. But we are also human like everyone else and do not live 24/7 within our classrooms. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. I appreciate the comments that you've made. And I think, you know, maybe we should say it more often, how appreciative we are of how much the staff has done. You know, we have essentially come to a place in our district where the default is that we are open, right? And we try to do everything we humanly possibly can do to avoid having to close. And I think, you know, we should be more mindful to be thankful of the staff for the level of flexibility that they've shown and all the work that was done at OTES in particular this week, so that that closure was in fact just for one day, and that the kids will be back in the building on Thursday, and be very thankful for that level of flexibility. I'll ask Dr. Stefankiewicz, you know, if he wants to address his letter though.
Yeah, I
Thank you,
mean,
Ms. Riley.
you know, I certainly, you know, I'll speak, you know, to Mr. Riley. I mean, obviously, Mr. Riley and I have worked together closely throughout this entire ordeal. I call it an ordeal. And I would hope that he knows, and I would hope the staff would know, that in no way was my letter intended to be anything other than informational, but yet respectful of the fact that that as I said in my opening, that things happen, unfortunately, during this kind of situation, pandemic, that are going to happen, and it's regrettable that there are some individuals out there who use this as a forum, use this kind of thing as a forum to you know, go off in whatever way they go off. It's inappropriate, it's unprofessional, and I am, you know, firmly of the belief that, you know, what people do in their spare time, and as I said, nothing that was done was a violation of any kind of social gathering. You know, I mean, quite frankly, whatever the event was immaterial. It is really a circumstance. It's an unfortunate circumstance that could have happened to any group in any environment in any situation. So I certainly did not intend for that to be that way. I apologize if it was taken that way. It was not my intent. And I think, you know, I think I think what's important is we've worked well together, the entire staff, the administration, the Board of Education, the parents, the students. The only way we're going to get through this is if we continue to do that. So I appreciate your comments, and you know, we will. You know, I mean, obviously, I think no other letter was that way, because I don't know that we've had a situation like that before. But I will certainly take that into advisement, and I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Ms. Conway, is there anyone else in the queue?
Yes, there is. Jennifer Caracia would like to make a comment about the prom. Would that be appropriate for these comments since?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, please go ahead, Jennifer Caracia.
Hi, it's Jen Caracia. How are you?
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Go ahead.
I don't know if I want to do the prom now, but I came in late to this meeting, and I'm trying to understand. It was brought to my attention that there was something discussed about any of the banquets for the sports teams. So I did miss that part. I don't know if that can be like restated, reiterated, just because we are in the midst of planning our football dinner back from the fall.
Dr. Spink, do you want to give an overview of what you said?
Sure. So what we were saying is right now, with cases, with the idea that we're kind of in the middle of an upswing here in terms of cases, that I think we're going to ask our teams to just be patient and really look to plan more toward as we get into the latter part of May and into June. We're just very concerned about, 100, 150, whatever it could be. I mean, some teams are larger than others. Having an event, even an outside event, even though it is allowable by current guidelines. Statistically speaking, you put 200 people outside right now, somebody's got COVID. And so what we don't want to do is jeopardize in-person learning, jeopardize spring season, because if I have to close school, I got to shut down athletics. I got to shut it all down. And we'd like to close out our year and give all the kids an opportunity to have their seasons, all the kids opportunity to finish out their year in school, enable the kids to have their proms, enable the kids to have their graduation. And as great as the banquets are, and we certainly support the banquets, what we'd like to do is have our parent groups who do, as I mentioned, who do just a great job in supporting the teams and supporting the athletic program, to just be a little more patient and plan towards the latter part of the school year, just so we can make sure that we're not jeopardizing anybody else's opportunity.
Okay, I appreciate that. I do have another question about the banquet. It was brought to my attention also outside of this meeting that the coaches were not going to be able to attend the banquet. Is that still the case, or had that been changed?
No, that was never the case. The rules for the banquets were always the same. We would still require the security as we put into place last year. That's really. There's what I think the only thing that may have gotten misconstrued is that before the guidelines, the guidelines just changed on Friday. They were 50 for outside. So I think we had just expressed to our coaches that, we can't support we really shouldn't be supporting these right now just because the guidelines aren't, and I think we were specifically talking about, football and cheer because it's just a larger group, it's one of our larger groups, and we, obviously it's going to go over 50, right? So, but now that it's moved to 200, we're probably in that place where it's going to fall within the guidelines. But sometimes, even though it's allowable, doesn't mean it's a great idea right now, So that's why we're saying let's think about, 6, 7, maybe, as we get into the latter part of May, June, so that we can make sure that cases are coming down, that people are vaccinated, that things are good, and then hopefully we can move forward with those.
Okay.
What we
And
don't want to do is have a banquet and then we can't have a prom because half the kids are on quarantine. You know what I mean? So
I absolutely understand that. My concern, though, is, and this ties in with prom, is that the seniors that are seniors this year missed out on their junior prom last year.
mhm.
The people who played football this season, and I'm focusing specifically on football just because of my son.
Sure.
And I know there's other parents on tonight, but we want them to have our banquet. If we keep waiting and waiting and waiting, come graduation, I don't even know what date it is, June 19th or 16th. It's earlier than it's been. And what happens if the numbers don't go down? Now they don't get a banquet. This is the thing that these boys strive and wait for. They play their butts off. They worked hard through all of this. They did everything that they were supposed to do in terms of, no outstanding fans out in the stands. So they really, and I'm not blaming the board. I'm just saying that they really missed out on a lot of traditions that they have been waiting since playing flag football in the elementary school.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, Ms. Garcia, I agree with you. I mean, believe me, we would love for them to have their banquet. But, the only thing I'll say is that the one thing that the football team did get was their season. And they had a season. Our spring athletes did not have a season last year. And we really want them to be able to have a season this year.
Right. I get that too, because Chris does play both sports. He's football and he does track.
exactly.
So I totally
You know,
get
I
it.
think that's what I'm saying. To us, the first priority is for our spring athletes to have a season before even our winter, and I have a winter athlete, you know, before our winter and our fall athletes, you know, would have their banquets that could potentially jeopardize spring season. So I think we just have to continue to communicate and work together. We're certainly not saying no to banquets. We're just saying we think, you know, to do something in the near future is ill-advised. I think it'd be better that we wait as we get a little bit latter. And I hate to say this, I do hate to say this, but you know, if it comes to pass that we have to make choices between, say, proms and graduations and spring seasons over a sports banquet, then that unfortunately may have to be how it is, even though that's not our goal. That is not the goal. But you know, unfortunately we might have to make. We'd rather have, you know, last year I think of the spring kids and they got nothing. Those seniors last year, just they didn't even an opportunity to do anything, and I felt terrible for them, and I'd hate for this senior class to experience the same thing for the spring. And you know, so I think we just got to keep communicating, working together, and continue to be patient, and we'll try hopefully to give all the kids everything that they deserve.
So can
Okay.
you give an update we're meeting in 2 weeks. Can you give an update in 2 weeks at that meeting as to where things stand? Because I
Sure.
think we'll have to set a date certain, you know, so
Right.
that.
We do have a date set for the football dinner, which is outside, and that's April 28th.
Yeah,
So-
I would respectfully ask if you guys could really look for a date beyond that. You know, I personally would not want to support a date that close to now with security. I mean, like I said, please don't look at this as, you know, we're trying to punish the football and cheer teams. That's not what this is about. It's trying to just make sure that, you know, we're not going to have an event, even though it's allowable to have an event that could then come back to create a major problem within the school.
So can I ask perhaps, you know, that you, Dr. Spankowitz, Mr. Todd, Ms. Kirasia, who I hope others just, you know, and
Yeah.
whomever else have a conversation in the coming days to really give certainty as to what they should be doing in terms of the date that they have
Yeah.
booked, when the district would be able to be supportive of it so that they can plan accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, it's all teams. I mean, I've heard from soccer, you know, parents, I've heard from a few others. So, you know, it's not just football cheer. It's really, you know, it's everybody. And I realize, like, you know, girls tennis, for example, is a much smaller team, but we would feel the same way there. I don't think we should allow some and not others, you know, at this
Right,
point.
absolutely.
So I think we should have a standard sort of approach
Right,
to
but
it.
they need to, you know, have
Yeah.
guidance as to how to move forward.
Absolutely.
So that there can be some certainty to this. And I
Agreed.
think if there are certain dates that, you know, you don't feel comfortable before, then
Right.
that needs to be conveyed to these teams.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think realistically, we're looking at, you know, mid-May and on is what we're looking at. Like the junior prom is supposed to be May 15th. I think, you know, I think after mid-May, I think after that date is what we should be looking at. Nothing earlier than that at this point.
What day is the junior prom scheduled for? I'm sorry.
I think right now, I think it's May 15th. So don't quote me, but it's right
A
around there.
Saturday? Okay. And then just the other thing, the senior prom is booked for, or tentatively booked for Jumping Brook.
Yes,
Just
that's
to
my
clarify.
understanding. That's my understanding.
All right, that's all I need. Thank you.
I was hoping to go so I could get around in before the.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think my shoulders could handle it anymore. But
Ms. Conway, are there additional people in the queue?
No, there are no more commenters at this point.
All right, thank you. And as a reminder to everyone, there'll be a second public comment session at the end of the meeting on any topic. So thank you. Moving on with the agenda, approval of minutes. Mr. Weinstein?
Thank you, Madam President. Move to approve the meeting minutes in accordance with Board of Education. What happened to my screen here? Board of Education bylaws number 0168, record of board meeting minutes for the meeting on March 23rd, 2021. Can I get a second? Thank you. Any questions from anybody or
No, thank you.
no? Ken?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Weinstein. Financial Management and Resource Services, Ms. Tortorella.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller. I have 9 items for this evening. 8.1, move to approve the use of facilities as per the attached memo dated April 6, 2021. 8.2, move to approve the attached resolution to participate in the Sustainable Jersey for Schools 2021 EDF Climate Corps Program application as per the below. 8.3, move to approve the attached resolution regarding state legislator support of all school districts for equitable state funding. 8.4, Board of Education and Administration will discuss the 2021 American Academy of Dermatology Shade Structure Grant in the amount of $8,000. The grant will fund $8,000 of the purchase of a permanent shade structure at the Township of Ocean Intermediate School's new playground area. 8.5, Board of Education and Administration will discuss agreements with Monmouth Ocean Educational Services Commission to provide non-public nursing services and instructional services under chapters 192, 193 from July 1, 21 through June 30, 24 in accordance with the attached. 8.6, Board of Education and Administration will discuss the attached Master Shared Services Resolution between the Township of Ocean Board of Education and the Deal Board of Education. Addendum 1 details the scope of the shared cafeteria services for the period of July 1, 21 through June 30th, 22. 8.7, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss the attached shared services resolution between the Township of Ocean Board of Ed and Hope Academy Charter School. Addendum 1 details the scope of the shared maintenance services for the period July 1, 21 through June 30th, 22. 8.8, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss the agreement with New Jersey School Board Association on behalf of the Alliance for Competitive Energy Services Cooperative Pricing System for Technology Products and Programs per NJSBA ACES CPS number E8801. This is a cooperative purchasing agreement with other New Jersey school districts from date of adoption through May 2023 as per the attached. And finally, 8.9, Board of Ed and Administration will continue budget discussions for the 2021-2022 budget. New federal funding will be discussed.
Thank you, Ms. Tortorella.
Mr. General, do you?
Yeah, could I
Yep.
just quickly take it from the top and then
Yep.
we'll take questions? Okay, 8.1, use of facilities we're still all outside if the board has noticed that even though we are open for applications to be submitted and reviewed by the board, we have not received any as of yet. So these are still all outside spring applications. The 8.2, this is a EDF fellowship application. Now, this is something that we did approximately 5 years ago. I don't know if there are any board members. I know Denise would have, Amy may have remembered. So what this is a graduate student who, you know, if we're successful in the application, could come in and spend, well, for this application, it would be remotely. The last application, they actually came in and took a desk and sat in this building and worked on different sustainable type energy savings and projects and analysis. So that's really what they will do. This falls under, you know, even though we've done it somewhat recently, that it can't hurt if something new has come up. There are some specific projects, and I know Ms. Hayes kind of, you know, referred this over to me, and we went back and forth a little bit. And as I thought about it more, to me, it really can't hurt. The electric buses is something that we've talked about before, that maybe I can put this person, you know, on a track to look, you know, one of the things they'll do is look for funding for these type of projects. They'll look for grants. You know, they'll do the analysis and they can do things that I can use and cut and paste and put into a grant, you know, even after they're gone. So if we're granted this, I don't think it hurts. The application deadline was tomorrow, but it was just extended to the 21st. So that's good. So, you know, it's about 9-10 weeks, they say. And the electric buses would be something great. The solar panels, even though we have professionals working on that now. You know, to me, it can't hurt to look for other funding sources or another set of eyes to look at those projects. You know, we've talked about an HVAC project that may be coming up with some of the federal funding, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And even to something, you know, that we've approved recently, the intermediate school greenhouse, the sustainable greenhouse that we've been working on. Maybe she can help with that. So, or he, I should say, he or she, whoever, you know, would come if we're approved. So it's a good thing. So, so
Yeah,
that's,
Can we add
that's
EV
that.
charging stations to that list for electric vehicles?
well, I think that, you know, part of electric bus is the infrastructure.
But I mean for like, oh, right, but I
of
mean for like
charging
staff cars and things like that, for people
Yeah.
who drive electric vehicles, have a charging station in some of our parking lots?
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
students, I guess.
Right. Yeah, the town has some.
Yeah.
I think once you get those grants and they, you know, we can put them in different places, and that's part of the.
Maybe we could add that to
application
their
we do.
list of things to
Yep.
look at too.
Yep, okay. Next one is the state funding resolution, the equitable state funding resolution. So this is, and we've talked about this before through budget development over the last, you know, many years now. Really since 2017, we've been losing state aid, and we've been part of a group that's called the SOS, where with other districts that are in a similar situation as ourselves. Many districts that are losing a lot more money than we are. We are slated to lose about 2.6 million, really from the 17-18 school year to out to the 2024-25. So this resolution is something, what it's really talking about is really three things. One is asking to not reduce any of the state aid that currently we're slated to reduce, $681,000, if you remember. The number two, we're asking to push off the reductions, to pause to really put them out on a longer time period than they're slated to now. And then really the third one is to review the funding mechanism of the state funding formula, to review that. So those are really the three things that this resolution is looking and asking to do. And you see the resolution in the attachment, but Mary Ann, if you could go to the other attachment there, that you know, the resolution speaks to it and we have the numbers in there. I just wanted to take a quick second to, because you know, we'll be talking about some of the federal monies, the one-time federal stimulus that we'll be receiving. And we talked about this in some prior meetings. And I just wanted to illustrate, and I don't know if you can enlarge that at all, Mary Ann, but it is attached to the agenda. But this is just a demonstration of the years that we've lost money, again, starting in 17-18. You see that starting $155,404. And this is something that people don't really think about when we talk about losing money, and the impact of that, not only in that year, but if you realize that we're losing it in that, we're starting to lose it in that year, but then also every year thereafter, that money is not coming back, right? So then we're losing more money on top of that money. So for instance, in the 18-19 column, you see the $142,000 that we lost. So not only did we lose the $155,000 from the year before, but plus the 142, and then you go down to the bottom, you see the $297,000 that really we lost in that year, and then there's a cumulative total. So if you take all of that and you go out to 24-25, you know, cumulatively we're going to lose about $11 million. Now, you know, we're talking about possibly the $1.6 million in federal funds the first round, and then possibly another $4.1 million, which is great. It's awesome. But just to remember that we're losing money year over year as far as state aid funding goes, and it does accumulate. So it's something that we have to, we just have to keep track of, and we have to realize when we're making financial decisions. And we've been able to make some smart financial decisions, and honestly, the taxpayers have taken the brunt of some of it. And we've been able to reduce some things, make some cost savings on other things such as benefits and things of that nature, which we've done over the last few years, and just other reductions due to some of our enrollment reductions. So it's a puzzle, but I just wanted to point out this, this part of it, and that's part of what the resolution speaks to.
Ken, before we go on to the next part,
Sure.
can you tell me what the property tax relief fund is?
Which,
I just saw it in some, a legislative update about special ed funding, and that the state was going to issue more money for districts, and the rest would be paid for through the property tax relief fund. And I thought, what is that?
that would be something at the state level I'm assuming that's a pot of money that they have. So that's talking about money coming to districts.
That's what it.
Yeah, so that's what it sounds like. I'd have to, it's in the school board notes. I can check it out.
Okay, and the other thing on school board notes, you talk about, loss of funding. It seems that they're trying to dangle the carrot of regionalization. And they're offering many financial incentives for regionalization, including no loss of funding. I don't know if we have examined that, or if that's even a
Talk to
possible.
Lock Harbor.
That was sarcastic, of
That's
course.
You can't see the sarcasm
Right,
with the mask
So the
on.
mask,
It
you just
doesn't
lose
come
so much
through.
with the
Yeah.
mask.
Yeah, we're actually the poster child of those things going the opposite way, where we were a consolidated district with Lock Harbor, and then they fought us and they were allowed
Right.
by
we
the
lost
state
them.
and the judge, and through appeal, through legal proceedings to split from us. So we've actually gone the other way. We've tried our best to keep them, but
There was
it
no
didn't
law
work out.
passed. Now, this is a bill, S3488.
Yeah, but I believe I believe it's voluntary still. It's like you said, it's a carrot.
Incentive.
That
They
if,
wanna-
right, if people want to try to do that, and it may be good for, some of the Highlands, Atlantic Highlands, some of the people that are just a natural fit as a, K-12 district, pre-K-12 district as we are now. It may be a little more difficult for us to do that, but we're always,
So would
listening.
we would need a district to essentially want to consolidate with us. We would need a Lock Harbor
That would be
to
amenable.
fold into us.
Correct.
I mean, what's interesting is surrounding us, we do have some non-operating, believe it or not, still some non-operating districts that border us, and where with students who attend school, and then, there are some smaller districts in our vicinity,
That drive through
but,
our
you know, I
town to
mean-
get to another school.
I'm sorry?
That drive through our town to get to another school
That drive through our
district.
town to get to another school. So, yeah, I mean, it's certainly not an unrealistic idea that some of those districts couldn't come under the fold. I have no idea whether, we haven't had conversation to it. But, I mean, it's certainly.
How many
worth
years has it been since Lock Harbor? Was that 5
4 or
years?
5,
Yeah,
I
time
was-
flies, 3, 4, or 5,
3, 4?
3 to 5 in that area.
Yeah.
I mean, the
More, I guess.
legal proceedings took,
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's
Years.
That kind of skews it.
right,
I remember.
right,
in
right.
terms of-
Just,
Okay.
Thought things might be a little different
Yeah.
now.
Okay, next one is, this is a good one. This is our Academy of Dermatology, American Academy of Dermatology Shade Structure Grant that we received and were successful. This is an $8,000 grant that will be going towards the shade structure at the intermediate school playground, which is proceeding. So that's a good thing. I put some of the promotional materials attached and we'll look to do some of that promotion once we get a little closer to the project beginning. And a big shout out and again, Ms. Hayes pointed me in his direction, but Dr. Morgan, who's a dermatologist in Ocean Township, and he was very helpful. There were some things through the grant process that we needed someone who's part of the AAD to really write a letter in support of the project. So I was able to communicate with him, and he was very gracious and very helpful. And there's some sun safety things that we'll need to do at the intermediate school also. And so he was very helpful with assistance in everything and advocating for this grant. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned him.
Ken, don't we
He's
have
a
a
parent.
structure we have one at Dow, right? With
Do it now.
at the playground?
Yeah, we had,
Right.
Right.
But not the other elementaries at this point. So can we apply for additional grants in the future for the other 2 elementaries playgrounds?
I believe at different schools we
Mhm.
can. I don't know how they'll view them.
Right.
I know Dow, and I think Alex, we had talked about, I think the PTA looking to apply for one for next year. But there is a lot to it as far as, and luckily at the intermediate school level, and Kelly helped a lot as well, then as far as the curriculum
Yeah.
and sun safety. And so luckily at that level, we had a lot of that in place already. But at the elementary levels, it's a little more, they're just requirements. So as many of these grants, we always say they're great, but when you look at the application, you go through it, sometimes there's a lot to be
Right, the strings
required,
are,
because they're
yeah.
not just giving away the money for nothing. There's usually a purpose to it. And most times it's very good, but it can be different requirements for these grants. So that may be something for the elementary schools to make it a little more difficult, but I think we could maybe give that a shot also in the next year or 2.
Okay.
Okay, next one is, this is a regular yearly non-public nursing and instructional services. I know there were a few questions as far as the number of students, and I'm working on getting that from Monmouth Ocean Ed Services. They're the MOESC. They administrate these monies. This is a flow through where we get monies from the state, and this goes to non-public school students. They're Ocean Township students, but the services are cared for through that, through the non-public schools. Okay, next deal. This is another yearly deal, shared service that we've participated in. It's the cafeteria services with Deal School. Back probably 5-7 years now, we started sharing services with Deal School, and we handle their cafeteria. Sodexo handles it. There's an administrative fee of $6,000, and then whatever money is made through sales, net profit, which ranges. Pre-COVID, it was about $10,000. Recently, it's more like $5,000, but normally it's approximately $10,000 in net profit from Deal School. So we've always talked about alternative revenue and sharing services and trying to do those things, and this is an example of that. We used to do maintenance services for them also, but they have gone away from that, and they decided to go and hire some people on their own. And then also along the same lines, but much smaller, is the Hope Academy Charter School, just for maintenance services. We have not done much, really haven't done anything with them in the last few years. I did have a conversation with them last year, and they asked just to keep it open just in case they need anything. So this isn't any kind of a drain on our maintenance guys. And so this is something that I would recommend. Just, we'll renew it. We'll renew it just so it's there in case they need something. We don't have to do anything. They call and request something from us, and we can say, sorry, we're too busy, or that's too big of a project, or whatever it may be. So we have latitude to make those decisions, with this agreement. Any questions on either of those two?
I do. If Hope Charter ever asks us for for help and our guys or women are busy, do we ever send any of those newly hired contracted janitorial, or would we, since I guess those folks are new? Because aren't they at a higher rate?
No, I mean, they haven't asked, number one. Number two, we wouldn't do that. Our agreement is specific to them doing really COVID type work, cleaning touch points and things like that. So no, and they don't, and that's custodial. You know, just know that there's a difference in between the custodial workforce and maintenance. Our maintenance guys are electrician, plumber, carpenter, so they're more, is it just a different job category?
And going back to deal, so we only made probably 5,000 this year. Is that it? And then 10,000 in previous years?
On top of the administrative fee. So add the two together.
So, but are we making less because simply everyone's getting free lunch and the Department of Agriculture, the reimbursement, no one's buying? Is that why it's only
Yes.
5?
Yes,
And how are their prices comparable to ours?
they're higher.
They're higher. Okay.
Yes, and Sodexo, of course, administrates everything. So they take care of everything.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Ken, I have one question about 8.3. I'm sorry. Is there a worksheet or a flow chart or anything that you can share with the board to just help us understand the weights in the formula for the student reimbursement from the state aid?
The enrollment weights, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like a lot of money that, is going out or being taken away from our district. And I'm just wondering, like, how is that happening with the formula?
Yeah, that's definitely about a meeting in and of itself to go through the whole formula.
There's no flow chart or just,
It's unfortunately, it's not
something for
that-
dummies, easy,
Yeah.
so we can take a look at it and say, oh, wow, this is a heavy weight and this is where, money's being taken out, and it's just a lot of money over
Yeah, I
a
can come up
year.
Have they, there was, the group did Oprah, how the formula was carried out. I don't know that it was ever delivered.
That was just one piece. There's one
Yeah.
algorithm
They typically
in
don't
there.
release the formula
Well,
as to how
there
exactly they do
are
it.
parts of the formula that I could go through and explain.
Right, but
The
they haven't-
way,
they haven't fully
there's-
funded it though.
right. It would just take a little, unfortunately, it's not simple, the funding formula, but I can certainly do that, come up with a simplified, although I would love to go through the whole thing. No.
Maybe with the audit.
Maybe even a committee.
I mean, just so we can understand it a little better, because $11 million is a lot of money over 8 years.
Sure, absolutely. I can do that.
It's typically tied to enrollment, Grace Ann, that is, and we've been losing enrollment over years, and that's been a big driving force of why we've been.
Yeah, there's a part of it. It's, of course, Dr. Frank is right. The enrollment is a big part of it, but then there's what they call adequacy budget, what the state believes that what it would take to what the budget would be for those students, and it's a weighted enrollment. And then the biggest thing is really the weighting of the property values, and also income levels go into it. So that's another piece of the formula in which it's whether they believe that local ability to pay. So that's the terminology. What is the local ability to pay in Ocean Township? And to really boil it down, they believe the ability to pay in Ocean Township is higher, so that there's less state aid needed to be given to the district. So I'll definitely put something together, and we'll figure out what agenda we can do that. I'd love to do that.
Or it could be a separate meeting for people that have questions.
Yeah,
Or a committee.
A separate Zoom.
sure. And then after that, if anybody wants to go through the formula, we can do it in a committee. That would be fine.
Then they could fully fund the formula too.
Yeah.
Ken, I had a question about facilities. So the travel soccer programs don't pay? I thought they used to pay something.
They pay for lights, only if, only for the tournament. No, they're a Ocean Township group.
Mhm.
And so they're a youth group for Ocean Township, so they do not. Only for lights, only if we need to pay something, whether it's
Right.
custodial or lighting or anything to basically reimburse the taxpayer. But because it's outside, there would be no custodial charge. They do pay,
Well, there's custodial if it's on weekends.
well, we put in the right, if there's custodial to clean up, then they would be reimbursed for that, depending on what it is. And then also we did start a 150 per season fee. It's a flat fee per season for some of these groups.
Have the turf companies said anything? Or I'm just a little concerned now that I'm seeing all these, outside groups on our fields, whether they're turf or real grass. We might not be paying a janitor, but what's the wear and tear of our fields? At some point, I think we need to consider that, because
I can tell.
Yeah.
Well-
I mean, I can just give you the quick theory is that, because they're youth groups, they're either students of Ocean Township and they're taxpayers of Ocean Township, so that they did pay for the fields through their taxes, and so that it should be open to youth groups of Ocean Township and without having to pay or Ocean Township residents to run the track or other things. And that was the theory when we.
Right, kind of like a certain number percentage of kids have to be from Ocean.
Yes,
Right.
it's 67%. So if a team could have, one kid from a different, or one or two kids from a different town, and that would still be good as long as the majority, the super majority is from Ocean Township. Again, because the theory is that they paid for the fields through their taxes.
Right.
Okay, next one is the ACES. That's the electrical generation. We're up to, I think we spoke about this a couple meetings back. This is the cooperative agreement with ACES that probably over 300 plus districts participate in. These are for our rates for our electric bills every year. And then lastly, 8.9, I think we've kind of already touched on some of it. Dr. Stankwitz went over a little bit with the learning loss grant and the ESSER 1 funds, which we have, we're looking at about $1.6 million now, and which we know that allocation has come out. We know that deadline, the application deadline is May 14th. And then we've heard a little bit about, nothing official yet, but we've heard a little bit rumors and some estimates, I guess you would call them, of the second allocation of the American Recovery Act, the second federal wave of funding that may be coming our way. So we've heard from 4.1 million to 4.3 million. So we're not sure where that's going to come in yet.
Let's go with 4.2.
Well, hopefully I'll go for 4.3
Split it.
or 4.4.
Split it right down the difference.
But again, I just wanted to bring this up, and I don't know that there's anything we can really, decide on tonight. I think this is still something we have to keep on our radar screen. And for the April 20th, April 27th, that we're going to be able to look at this and see the different pots of money, and not only the pots of money, but what the intended uses and restrictive uses are for each. And that's why, even though we know one now, we really need to wait to see what the second one is, so that we can come up with, and we're working on it administratively, trying to come up with an overall plan to recommend and discuss with the board. But that's hopefully coming shortly. And of course, it will involve the ESSER 1 funds, the ESSER, the American Recovery funds, and the budget, because so we can try to move things, back and forth as to whatever, depending on the uses, what they say we can or cannot use the funds for, and we can try to accomplish things that we need to accomplish. Also taking into consideration that these funds are only good for are good for 2 years until September 2023.
2 years, you said?
Yes, up to September 2023 was the first allocation. Now, I'm not sure, from what I've heard, I think it's 2 years also for the second allocation that's coming, but we have no official notification yet. So I don't know a specific month and date on that yet. But that will help us maybe to allocate over a couple of years some of the things, some of the priorities that we're looking to accomplish, all keeping in mind that these are one-time funds and that we're still losing year over year the state aid. So, how we plan, and that's financially plan for these things is important, and that's what we're working on now administratively. And once we get some more concrete allocation numbers and allowable usage, that we'll be able to go over that hopefully next on the 20th and the 27th.
Would you say, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. McGovern.
Would you say that you're confident then that we'll be able to lower our budget amount?
Yes. Before the 4.1 million, I wasn't so sure. And that's why I wanted to wait and not commit to anything. I probably shouldn't be committing to that now, but
I think the fear is that we don't have the guidance by the time we need to make a decision.
it's true.
I think that would be the wrinkle, that we don't have guidance as to the final amount and the restrictions on the usage.
Right.
Hopefully we will.
Hopefully, yes.
Thank you. Ms. Tortorella, do you want to move the?
Yep, make a motion to approve 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3.
Second.
Can I get a second?
That's Amy. Okay, Mrs. Beal,
Yes to 8.1 and 8.2. I will recuse myself for professional reasons for 8.3.
okay, Mrs. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Can you reiterate what we're voting on again? 1, 2.
8.1 and to 8.3.
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Tortorella,
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein,
Yes.
and Ms. Fuller.
Yes,
Okay, the motion is carried.
thank you, Ms. Tortorella. Moving along, instruction, education, and student activities, Ms. Gilman.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Fuller. There are 4 items in instruction, education, and student activities for this evening. 9.1, move to approve the acceptance of the preschool aid, the PEA funds, in the amount of $2,156,900 for the 2021-2022 school year. 9.2, administrative shadowing. Move to approve the request of Lauren Schwartz, a student at William Patterson University, to fulfill her administrative shadowing experience in accordance with the attached memorandum dated March 25th, 2021. 9.3, textbooks for the 2021-2022 school year. The Board of Education and Administration will discuss purchasing the following textbooks for 2021-2022 school year in the areas of mathematics, visual and performing arts program, and social studies K through 5. 9.4, a discussion of the amended 2020-2021 school calendar. Board of Education and Administration will discuss amending the 2020-2021 school calendar to reflect an adjustment to the last day of school for teachers and students. A copy of the calendar is attached. Dr. Stefanowicz?
Thank you.
comments?
Yeah, so obviously 9.1 is just a formal adoption of our pre-K money, which, is just tremendous, getting over $2 million and having, getting to a place where we will continue towards our goal of universal pre-K. And for us, this is a game changer for kids to be able to get into school at such a young age and be with our staff and what in terms of equity, it provides just an equitable situation where all kids have access to outstanding preschool, which is great. Shadowing, I think, speaks for itself. The items for the textbook additions, we've the board spoke in great detail, I think a couple of weeks ago with the presentation of the social studies the new social studies program. Those are online resources. And then we have, the algebra and the music one. And then I did want to talk about an amendment to this year's calendar. I know in the winter when it snows, everybody likes a good snow day. However, when we don't take those snow days and we have our remote days, we get to a point where we are potentially getting out the earliest that I could ever possibly remember getting out in a year that I think everybody would agree we very much would like to get out earlier than any year we've ever gotten out before. So I'm going to recommend at our next meeting for adoption that we formally amend this year's calendar, since we didn't use any emergency days, to have the last day of school and graduation be on Wednesday, June 16th. We do anticipate using our professional development day in early June. And so we do, we think the 16th. It's a good day. We like June 16th. So unless there's any major reason not to do that, or
Mr. McGovern's going to object?
I'm going to object.
you're going to object?
Absolutely not.
Well, you can
No.
discuss that with the 124 people that are on the.
No, I'm
meeting.
sorry. I thought you were getting to the end. I had a question about textbook.
Okay, but just before we do anything, is there anything on the calendar? Any thoughts? Any problems with that? I can put it on moving forward. I didn't think so. Okay, I'm
Ms.
sorry.
McGovern?
Question.
I just had a question. At the Algebra 1, don't we teach that in 8th grade too? We have an algebra class, and so that's a different curriculum or different textbook for 8th grade?
I'm gonna defer to Kelly Weldon. I think she's on here to.
No, same textbook.
Okay, so is it actually more than 50? Because you need some down there?
No, it's the way it works. This is the amount we need.
Okay, all right. That was my only question.
Also, just so you know, these were already presented in the budget, but the part of the board policy is that textbooks would be board approved. So these are not really being put up for approval for purchase, just approval of the selection of the text. And maybe my memo wasn't clear on that, so I apologize.
That's okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
I have one
Yeah,
more
not until the
question.
budget's approved would anything go forward.
Right, we wouldn't purchase these. These are just also being approved as the titles that will be purchased if the budget is approved.
Well, it's not an item, it's under instruction. So the federal government is moving ahead with spring assessment. And the New Jersey School Board has directed all districts to move ahead with it, but has given lateral choice as to how we are going to run that. Can you give us any
Well,
information?
yeah,
about
and
how that spring testing?
I'll ask Kelly to chime in as well. But right now the New Jersey Department of Education is intending to put forth a waiver, to ask for a waiver on state testing. I don't know if the federal government is on board with that at this point. So the state has told us if we don't get the waiver, you all need to be prepared to conduct state testing starting probably in May. And I mean, honestly, I'm just gonna say it. It's ridiculous. And I think that it's insane that what they're asking us to do right now. And we very possibly could be testing from early May straight through to very close to the 16th of June, between the science test and, Ms. Weldon, can you kind of elaborate on the?
Yeah, absolutely. The Department of Education has already applied for a waiver for which the federal government has 120 days to respond. So at this point, we have been advised to move forward with testing. The testing windows, the state tests are the access test for ELL students, the NJSLA in language arts, math, and science, and the dynamic learning maps, the DLM, for some special ed students. The access testing window began yesterday We are starting in our district this coming Monday. So we are beginning state mandated testing this coming Monday, and we will continue with it straight through to June 11th, which is when the window closes. Each individual principal will be, the ELL students and their families have been communicated with through the supervisor directly because that was coming up so soon. And we got that guidance March 17th. You know, it's sort of a quick turnaround, but the principals, I will be asking them to, they wrote letters in the beginning of the year about state testing, but the state testing was postponed and then rescheduled. So I will be asking them to write individual letters out to their families to be specific to the testing dates in their school and how it applies to their students. Although remote teaching, the State Department is allowing for an option if a district wanted to opt to allow remote testing after consultation with our testing coordinators and our internet infrastructure and testing security. It is my recommendation that all testing take place on site. It is, I just do not believe that we would be able to manage it. So we certainly will be encouraging all students to come in for testing. There'll be more on that from each school and at each level, depending on, you know, the necessity of the test for the student and their grade level. The training is all happening right now about those details. So, you know, it came out right at the end of March, and we are just, and it begins now, and we are just trying to get the best possible plan in place to see this through this year.
And, you know, obviously one of the big challenges too is schedule. Because, for example, at the high school, middle school levels, you know, we testing takes hours. And quite often at the high school level, you know, not everybody tests. Seniors do not test. You know, there's going to be a large group of people who will not test. So with the current schedule the way it is, you know, it's not gonna work great with a testing schedule. So that's another thing we're looking at as we get into May. You know, we've already talked about in previous letter that I've sent home, you know, we did push back our Wednesdays. Staff will start to report on Wednesdays starting next week. Staff will, just to be, you know, to get back to 5 days a week in the building. And then we are looking at the week of May 3rd for 5 days. And, you know, we feel confident that we're going to do that. You know, exactly what it's still going to look like, but a big consideration is the testing piece. You know, how we're not going to test from, you know, 7:30 to 11 and then have seniors come in for, you know, 45 minutes. You know, it doesn't make sense. So we're really going to need to take a look of what that schedule is across the board for the next, you know, for the last so many weeks of the school year. Creates a significant challenge. As I said, it makes no sense, but a lot of things this year don't make sense. So we'll do the best we can. Do the best we can.
Hopefully they'll be.
Thank you, Mrs. Weldon. Thanks, Ms. Weldon.
Ms. Hayes, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. This is huge, I think. I didn't know we were starting testing so soon, and to hear Monday. So I know you said you're going to ask the principals, but so next week, are parents going to be getting perhaps a schedule?
So all the ELL students who are beginning first, their parents have been notified through the supervisor and through their teachers.
Okay.
It's a smaller group of students. The NJSLA in English Language Arts, Mathematics, and Science is not beginning until May 3rd. That's the second part of the testing, and the parents will be getting notification from the principals. So it begins May 3rd, but not in every school. As a district, we'll be testing with that test from May 3rd to June 11th, different schools at different times.
And I know you say ideally we want remote kids to come in, but what if parents don't want to send their kids in, or what about if we go remote and we were going to test? So, or is the state you don't care, figure it out on your own?
More or less, but it's an option as a district. So if we will be encouraging, as Dr. Spankwitz just said, we're hoping to have more students back in person May 3rd. We're hoping to be back to more of a regular schedule. So hopefully many of the students who would need to test would be in school. If they're not, We would encourage the parent to let the student come in for those testing dates or just the test. And if they absolutely refuse, then those students will not be tested. If as a district, we needed to go all remote, I would have to do an irregularity report to the state stating that, what the circumstances were that happened that prevented the test from happening. Similar, I would have to do that if we had suddenly had a snow day. That's something that I've had to do in the past if we had to cancel testing for a day. So that's kind of usual protocol. I don't want to, I will say I have not completed the online training just yet. I'm halfway through it. So I'm still coming up to speed myself with, the training was just released on March 29th, and I have until April 16th to fully educate myself on a test that could have started yesterday.
That's crazy. For you guys, I have questions about the pre-K, Dr. Stefankiewicz. So $2.1 million. Are we at universal for next year yet?
No, we still have, we still have, I think some room. We're getting close. I mean, if you look at the applications, I'm going off of memory. I want to say we had about 135, 145 applications.
And were we like
130.
75 kids short or something?
And we filled, I think, 90 slots. So
Yes.
we still have some room to grow. But we are, we gauge it by applications. And that's not, I mean, that's obviously not everybody who is in the universe necessarily applies. But I think we are, getting closer to getting to that universe. I mean, if you look at it theoretically, it's 2 years worth, because it's three and 4 years. And it's about, look at your kindergarten populations, your first grade populations, to get a pretty good idea of what that universe would be. Probably somewhere in the low 200 kids per third, third grade, not third grade, year 3, year 4. So probably about 400, I think it's about 430 kids over year 3 and year 4 programs.
But so this doesn't mean any new spots.
I'm sorry, say that again?
This 2.1 million.
No, that what we filled is what
I know.
that pays for the 2.1 plus our
Like exactly. Okay, I didn't know if it meant like 5 new spots or 3.
Oh, no.
Gotcha. Okay.
No, we get, it's based on, we get a certain amount per student. And then there's other factors that are built into it. But no, that is, we tell them how many students we're going to have for this year, and then they basically give us the funding number at this point.
Are there any other questions regarding instruction activities, education activities? No? All
We
right.
just need a second out if I missed it.
I'm sorry, I had one question. Just real quick, are there any monies for SEL curriculums in the budget for next year?
I think we're planning to use the monies part of the ESSER II funds, the $45,000 that were provided through the ESSER II funds.
We know that that's specifically
Yeah,
meant for
and-
SEL. Yes.
Correct.
At least that amount so far that we know of.
Yeah, and possibly more, but we know that that's allocated directly for that use.
All right, can we get a second on 9.1 and 9.2?
Second.
Mr. General?
Okay, 9.1, 9.2, Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorello,
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein,
Yes.
Ms. Fuller.
Yes.
Okay, the motion's carried.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. Moving on in the agenda, personnel, in Ms. Karlamis's absence, Mr. Weinstein, could you please move the items for personnel?
Sure, I'd like to move in personnel items 10.1 to 10.8 for approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
Mr. General?
Okay, this 10.1, 10.8, Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorello,
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein,
Yes.
Ms. Fuller.
Yes.
Okay, the motion's carried.
Thank you, Mr. Weinstein.
Thank you.
That brings us to old business. Is there any old business from the board?
I have a topic.
Mr. Weinstein.
Jim and Ken, I was wondering how we were progressing on the policies for the first tranche. So you don't slowly? Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I will say over the break, I did review a lot of the mandated policies that we talked about. I reviewed it off of, other district policies and looking at a good amount of them really require very minor changes to get them where they need to be. But, hopefully in May we'll be.
So maybe what I can do is we can get a thread together and figure out a time when we'll be able to create a date where our committee can review them with you.
Sure.
Okay,
Sounds
great.
good.
Okay, it was more of a heads up that I'll be sending that out. Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
Ms.
I have an old
Talerico?
business. I was just wondering, a couple of meetings ago, I asked about a breakdown of the other distinguishing characteristics for the HIB reports that were presented. Just wondering if that was done or when that would be coming.
I have not done that. I can certainly prepare that for a future meeting if the board likes.
You can get it to Ms. Talerico and any other board members who might like to see it.
Sure.
Any other old business?
Hold on. Oh, I was unmuted, sorry. Wait, we're on old business or new business? Sorry, this actually went really quickly for the last 5 minutes. We're on old.
Whole business.
Going back to your superintendent's report, I think I misspoke because in my brain I hear, and what we voted on 2 weeks ago, the half sick day for the teachers.
Mhm.
And in my brain, I think that's half pay. So I think I
No.
said half pay. But it's not. And I just want you to clarify that no teachers are having to put in for a half day for working either yesterday or today when it's been a mandated school closure or whatever. So can you just clarify, because I don't know if I spoke incorrectly.
Well, firstly, correct. No one gets half pay. It's a half a sick day, meaning if you get charged a half a sick day, you're getting paid for the other part of it. So no one is getting half pay. The only issue, of course, is if someone's out of sick days, then there is a deduction of the sub rate. That is what we agreed upon.
But why would they have to do that when you're calling the school day? Like if they're on quarantine, they would have to pay the half or whatever. If they went to Panama City Beach, they were on quarantine because of whatever.
You're talking specifically about today.
Yes.
Okay. Well, once again, it was mandatory for staff to report to their building. So it was not a work from home day. So if a staff member,
quarantine, right?
I'm sorry?
There were teachers on quarantine.
Yeah. So if they're on quarantine, the travel quarantine, the provision that we voted on that the board voted on last time did not apply to travel quarantine.
Okay.
It only applied to if someone gets COVID or has to quarantine because of COVID or a child care issue related to COVID. So for example, if your child is home, their school is closed because of COVID, now you have no child care, or your child was exposed and now they're home and you need child care related to COVID. So something like that, those individuals could work from home. So there certainly could have been people, I don't have the exact list with me, but there certainly could have been people today who were at home working from home, who were charged a half day, but working remotely under that provision that was agreed upon last time.
I still don't understand how they're charged a half day if it's.
The students didn't
Because
have
the
their
teachers,
first school.
the teachers who report, the staff members who report, it's a full day for.
Yeah, they're supposed to report, but if they're on quarantine and you close the school, I thought that erases the need for getting the half day sick day because it was our call to do that. I feel
Yeah,
like
I
there's
mean,
probably gonna be some teachers
once
with
again,
short
staff
meetings.
was still required to report. So with staffs, I mean, I understand what you're saying, like a snow day, for example, like, right, you know, if a staff member took a personal day on a snow day and we call a snow day and there's no school, there's no anything, that staff member they get their personal day back because it was a snow day. This is not the same thing. This is, you know, while the students are not, it's a remote day for students, staff did have to report. And so if the staff member didn't report, then, you know, the provisions that we agreed upon last board meeting would apply.
Well, I voted against that, so, but all right, thank you. I don't think it's fair, but all right. Thanks for
But by
explaining.
voting against it, it wouldn't have changed the situation for today. It just made it not available for people to use as an option.
Sure, but he just said, well, and that's what they voted on, and I just wanted to clarify.
Right,
that.
but-
Not what I
Well,
voted.
the board as a whole, when I said, the board
Right.
as a whole approved it, so.
But the existence of this wouldn't have changed for the day. I mean, then they would have had no option. Right.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's exactly why we did it. So people who, you know, fall into that situation will have some, you know,
Right. The vote by approving that policy did not create the situation
No,
today. It gave an
no.
option for those who needed to use this. today.
correct, sure.
All right. Is there any other old business from the board? Is there any new business from the board?
I probably do.
Yeah, Dr. Stankiewicz?
Okay, so,
New business from the
yeah,
superintendent?
I wanted to just, and I alluded to this earlier, Ms. Hayes, I think you had said something and I said I wanted to talk about it. So just regarding, you know, the letters that we sent home in terms of COVID notification. What I'd really like to do, really probably starting, maybe not this week, because I think I have a letter going out tomorrow where I'll look to explain this, but really starting next week, I'd like to go to just really one cumulative letter at the end of a week that basically sums up the week, lists the number of cases per school. We would update the dashboard, you know, daily or as we need to. That would still happen. You know, I've certainly got a lot of feedback that people like and appreciate the letters, but at the same time, I've also, you know, when you send them and you don't want to oversaturate either. So I think they would be more, I think they would stand out more and they would, you know, people it would just kind of culminate the week to provide one weekly update as to number of cases and that kind of thing in a letter, still maintaining the dashboard and still updating the dashboard on a daily basis. So if it's okay with the board, I'd really like to, it's what many districts do. You know, really also getting away from the last in school on this date, this, you know, it's just, you know, at this point, we've been doing that for I think people get the gist. If there's a close contact, we know that they're being contacted, peripheral contacts are being contacted. We're just to the point now, I think we just like to streamline a little bit of.
So
of
one
what we're
summary
doing.
letter a week, dashboard being regularly
And-
updated, and if there's an incident such as a necessitating school
course.
closure, there would be specific correspondence related. to that.
Something, right. And because also too, sometimes, you know, I'll write something and then, oh, and here's the latest cases, you know, like it just kind of seems out of place, a little disjointed. If there's something specific, like talking about a move to 5 days or, you know, what we're doing with, you know, something particular, then I'd like that to be the focus of the letter, and that can come out separate from a Friday. But the weekly sort of COVID update, if you will, would just really sort of be at the Friday that culminates the week. That's what I'd like to do
Sure.
moving forward.
Good idea.
All right, any new business from the board? All right. Public comment on any item. At this time, we will move to our second public comment session, and that, of course, can be on any item. Ms. Conway, is there anyone in the queue for public comment?
At this time, there's nobody. Hold on one second, please. There is one person in the queue, and it is Anjali Boxy. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Hold on.
Thank you.
Okay, please go ahead.
Hi, this is Anjali Baxi. I'm at 32 Ascot Drive. I have a question. I don't believe it was addressed today at all, but I'm just curious whether parents and children will have the opportunity to either go physically or have some sort of virtual tour of, I guess, the middle school or the high school if they're transitioning from the elementary or the middle school into the other grades. I know in the past, I've heard that there is some sort of, visit, but given the circumstances this year, I'm just curious how that would be handled or who to talk to about it. That's the other question.
That's a great question.
Yeah, if I may, yeah. Last year we did a virtual tour for those students. And I can't imagine we wouldn't be doing that again. I'm sure we would be, but if you wanted to reach out to the middle school principal and high school principal, they could certainly answer that question, or I can find out that answer and get back to you. If you want to email me, I can get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Is there any way that could be accommodated in person since the schedules are different?
In terms of meaning
The
bringing the
elementary kids
kids.
are in school later than the.
I think
middle
part
school
of,
kids.
I'll see, I'm not sure what they're planning.
Yeah,
I'll have to
right.
talk with them and see what they're planning. I mean, obviously we want to, we don't necessarily want to bring those groups of kids together, you just take out the whole crew in that point. And there was, in the past, it was always great because the elementary kids used to like to go and see, the older kids, and it was a good experience. So I'll have to talk with them and see what they're planning.
All right, Ms. Conway, any other public, thank you for that question, Ms. Foxy. Ms. Conway, any other people in the queue?
Yes, there's just one more. Denise Bond has a question about summer assignments. Please go ahead, Denise.
Hi, I have a question about the summer assignments this year.
Mhm.
Will the summer assignments, I'm speaking specifically for middle and high school, not for elementary,
Mhm.
but will they be required this year?
Well, I mean, I think all of our summer assignments are designed to help kids and to keep them, keep learning going. I think that's especially important, this year. I mean, I think that when you say required, every department and every school has different ways they address, summer work and how they what the requirements are, so to speak, for that. Ms. Weldon, I don't know, do you want to, can you add to that at all? I mean, I can.
Yeah, no, I mean, depending on course selection, it's a variety of, in many cases, it's encouraged work to continue learning. In other courses, sometimes there is a required assignment. It really is specific to the student and the courses that they choose, but a guidance counselor, or if you're interested in a specific subject, then the supervisor of that department could always help answer specific questions for you.
Well, I'm basically asking for my 3 kids who will be going into 8th, 10th, and 12th year. And, with the remote and the half a days, and one of my students does have an IEP, the other 2 do not. But I don't feel that like you guys feel about the testing this year. I feel it's almost a little bit ridiculous to, make it mandatory to do these summer assignments this year for that reason alone. I mean, they've had such a loss of education that I think it would just be much harder on most of the students this year.
Well, thank you, Ms. Bond. If you have specifics about your children, the students you have in the district, you can reach out to the folks at Ms. Weldon and Dr. Stefankowitz mentioned for specifics as to your students. Thank you. Ms. Conway, is there anyone else in the queue?
No, there is not.
I did actually just get a message. I think Ms. House might want to be unmuted again to share some contact information that she wasn't able to earlier. Do you still see her to unmute, Ms. House?
Yes, I do. Please go ahead, Ms. House.
Hi, I'm sorry. I just wanted to share our email address, just in case anybody needs to reach out to us. It's Ocean Township CPAG, but it's OCEANTWPSEPAG@gmail.com. And Dr. Stefankowitz, would it be okay if Kim and I sent you a formal introductory letter to send out to our community parents and families?
Absolutely, of course.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And if possible, if you can send that in both English and Spanish. If not, we can get it translated. That's fine.
Okay. All right. You got it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Assuming there's no one else in the queue. Thank you. Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Second.